Welcome to Radical Connections' first live stream performance. I'm so pleased that Eleanor Crowder has agreed to be our first performer, and I'm really looking forward. Today, I'm her only audience. We are in the future planning to actually host these where we've got a bigger audience, but we do actually have a big audience. I'm pleased to report we have people from Whitehorse, Yukon, Manitoba, across Ontario, and this performance will be available for the coming month. And I'm looking forward to people outside of Canada accessing it as well. So welcome to Healing Interactive Performances. Our first performer is Eleanor Crowder, who is, as you will soon see, an amazing poet, playwright, and performer. Enjoy the show.
Thank you, Carol. Well, now put your arms around me like a circle round the sun. You know I love you, honey, when your easy riding's done. Don't believe I'm fooling, look at the fool I've been. You don't believe I'm sinking, look at the hole I'm in. Stealing, honey, stealing, pretty mama, don't you tell on me. 'Cause I'm stealing back to my same old used to be. That's a poem by Arlo Guthrie, and one that's nice with music to it. It's a poem that lived in our house all the time for about 10 years. And to me, that circle around the sun, that passage of the year, that passage through life when you come back to the same ideas, poetry does that really well. I'm going to take you through some classic poems that I have known all my life and that are touchstones for me, and I'm going to branch off them into poems of my own. This little poem answered the question, what's a poem for? A poem, like a stone from the beach you keep in your pocket, words you keep in your head for rain, when the going gets tough, or the pain is too much, or you are just so plain bored that an Assyrian army might be just the thing. So here's the Assyrian army. The Assyrian came down like the wolf on the fold, with his cohorts all gleaming in purple and gold, and the sheen of their spears was like stars on the sea, when the blue wave rolls nightly on deep Galilee. Like the leaves of the forest when summer is green, that host with their banners at sunset were seen. Like the leaves of the forest when autumn hath blown, that host on the morrow lay withered and strown. For the angel of death spread his wings on the blast and breathed in the face of the foe as he passed, and the eyes of the sleepers waxed deadly and chill, and their hearts but once heaved and forever grew still. And there lay the steed with his nostril all wide, but through it there rolled not the breath of his pride, and the foam of his gasping lay white on the turf, and cold as the spray of the rock-beating surf. And there lay the rider distorted and pale, with the dew on his brow and the rust on his mail. And the tents were all silent, the banners alone, the lances unlifted, the trumpet unblown. And the widows of Asher are loud in their wail, and the idols are broke in the temple of Baal. And the might of the Gentile, unsmote by the sword, hath melted like snow in the glance of the Lord. Lord Byron, George Gordon, The Destruction of Sennacherib. I don't know about you, but I certainly grew up with fierce poems where people died in battles and where that horse beat, we galloped, he galloped, we galloped all three. That's how they brought the good news from Ghent to Aix. Where the world of poetry was horses and huge sweeping events, lightning out of the sky like giant old masters. And then sometime in my teens, I met this poem, William Carlos Williams. This is just to say, I have eaten the plums that were in the icebox and which you were probably saving for breakfast. Forgive me, They were delicious, so sweet and so cold. The story is it was written on a tiny shopping list and pegged to the fridge, and his wife found it. And to know that you could write poetry about everyday things, and that the domestic reality was also part of poetry, was a sort of revelation to me. A couple of domestic poems of mine. I am a garden. I am not the woman you thought me, not heroic. I am a garden luxuriant with peonies. My pink flames tongue the heavy air. Tiger lilies flag my crevices. My bees are iris drugged. You sowed the seed, watched my struggling spring. No February vow can hold me now from harvest. That's a tricky ending. No February vow can hold me now from harvest. Some poems are much easier to read with your eyes than to read aloud. Set myself a tongue twister on that one. And another poem, Good Wife. I make a good wife, I told him, lying on the grass on the hottest day of June. It doesn't matter much to whom. Told him, told you. Now who is who? Him? You? Revealed the gypsy. Are you always so objective? Asks my solicitor uncle. Yes, I guess. Grande dame or slave girl, what does it matter which opinion? Proximity is the kernel of geography. I would wear a star in my ear if you gave it to me. And for him, a snake tattooed under my breast might be considered warning. So poetry helps you discover things you might not say out loud. Those were both things I probably wouldn't have said out loud at the time, but true. And this poem comes from, you need to know that on the northern coast of Labrador, south of Nain, there's definitely a place where you have to fly in the summer. You can take a boat. It takes you 4 or 5 days and is a wonderful journey. Or you can fly in. The poem comes from a time when I was staying with a friend helping with char fishing. And someone flew in to visit us. And this was his story, but it's a poem I've always cherished. It too maybe underlines the fact that female domestic life has its values. None of the poets I read as a kid were female. I didn't meet Emily Dickinson or even Margaret Atwood until I was considerably older. So here is a poem from that dawning that poetry and women go together. Lifeline. A woman's hands, he said, holding one fast around the bread knife. See, he said, those hands? No vanity there, no lacquered nails. She laughs, a little ashamed, as he turns the palm up. Fingers and skin swollen, peeling from the fish and the salt. Calluses rough from the oars and the axe. His thumb hard down on the burn mark from the jammed oven door. He starts the story of the girl on the plane. Taking back her hand, she cuts the bread, hoping they will like it. It's heavy today. The girl on the plane looked great. All the proper gear, looked like she belonged. Wool shirt, parka, vest, even the boots. Till she sat down beside him and her hands were soft and white and slim with her nails, bright oil drum red. Not a chip, not a scar. Now these, he said again, taking the hand in the teacup, these are a woman's hands. That's a little introduction. I don't know, are you listening with your eyes shut? Are you listening, staring into space? I've been taking you places. A lot of my poetry happens around the kitchen table, some of it even at the local stove, like right there with a frying pan in my hand. But For me, the exotic places, well, they've been as far as I could go in Canada most often, north and west and north. But home, this is a poem I learned to speak aloud when I was 9. Home for me is Ireland, and W.B. Yeats is very much the poet of that kind of Ireland, my home. Here is the Lake Isle of Innisfree. I will arise and go now, and go to Innisfree, and a small cabin build there of clay and wattles made. 9 bean rows will I have there, a hive for the honeybee, and live alone in the bee-loud glade. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the vales of the morning to where the cricket sings. There midnight's all a glimmer, and noon a purple glow, and evening full of the linnet's wings. I will arise and go now, for always, night and day, I hear lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore. While I stand on the roadway, or on the pavement's grey, I hear it in the deep heart's core. And that lake water lapping, that's such an image, the idea of that island and a green lake. So even if I came to Canada when I was 13, that piece of Ireland has lived in me always. This is another Yeats poem, again, powerful, way beyond what I understood at the time. I must have encountered it when I was probably 17 or 18. And that was a time of imminent destructive warfare. We all worried all the time, where would we be when the bomb dropped? What could we do to stop it? So it spoke very directly to that experience, although Yeats wrote it out of the experience of the Irish Rebellion, First World War, Revolution. He lived through his own kind of warfare. The Second Coming. Turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart. The centre cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world, the blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Surely some revelation is at hand. Surely the second coming is at hand. The second coming! Hardly are those words out when a vast image out of Spiritus Mundi troubles my sight. Somewhere in sands of the desert, a shape with lion body and the head of a man, a gaze blank and pitiless as the sun, is moving its slow thighs, while all about it reel shadows of the indignant desert birds. The darkness drops again. But now I know that 20 centuries of stony sleep were vexed to nightmare by a rocking cradle. And what rough beast, its hour come round at last, slouches towards Bethlehem to be born? We're in a time of worry again, but that time of worry, I expected to be called to have to do something. This is a poem called Full Frantic. We must colour our flags. My flag is dipped in red blood, red for the beating heart which continues. My flag is leafy, a paradise of shade. Golden apples hang from the staff. My flag arches with the sky, the moon tips its corners. Our flags are patched with living, corners torn, stitched again to fly on breezes born of living breath on breath through calendar rotation. We must unfurl our flags. Mr. President, see us living. Feels like a long time ago now, but Maybe we're in the same time. Sometime after that summer in Labrador, this poem belongs. I shall survive the revolution. I shall survive the revolution not as I had planned, cork-faced dirty, hunkered down in brush beside a fire, weapons down, rolling butts between my fingers, fatigued past strategy, today's breather won. Not raising banners on the barricade, howling raucous glory to comrades spreading flame. Not even on the banners as once I fancied. Not tearing them to stop the screaming blood. My men lob firebombs through the night. They are far away. I have not planned for shelling. No, I shall survive the revolution standing quietly stirring a comforting green soup. I shall send the children to the cellar. Warn them not to laugh when soldiers eat. I shall smile each time setting spoons on the table. In their hero's dish, I crush fennel, cumin, caraway, hoarded single seeds, wiping scented fingers on my apron. Their captain's eyes hunger for my fingers in his beard. I shall pry mussels from the shoreline, chop shriveled roots, make soup from fish heads, tree flesh, boot soles. I shall boil the red earth, sucking salt from round the stones. My children never hunger. When other women's husbands burst my door with guns, I shall stir the steam toward them, offering bowls warm in my hand. I shall survive the revolution, not as I had thought, but stirring a comforting green soup. And sometime after that, now we'd say I had the privilege. At the time, I would say I dared to live in East Sudan for a while. A husband who had a job there. So I was very much an onlooker and very much out of my depth. I didn't have the expertise. I didn't have Arabic. But I did experience some astonishing moments. Here is one. As a white woman, I wasn't out walking on my own, except if I was in the downtown core or within our own compound. But I did get to drive a very old Land Rover to go food shopping. And one day from the Land Rover, here was my view. The poem is called Umbilicus. The women singing carry the afterbirth to the sea. Each woman wrapped in her cloth, singing and dancing. Colored cloths dance to the sea. A lone old man carries it wrapped in a cloth. Women singing dance the afterbirth back to the sea. Not so far away, men glare grim in cities behind desks, abruptly order lines of fire. Satellite telephone binds Washington to Moscow, not so far across the sea. While here, singing and dancing, the women carry the afterbirth back to the sea. So now you know more about the things that matter to me than I would have known for years at that stage, because poetry reveals the stones you carry in your pockets, the things that go with you, the words that shape who you are. Mood change. There are a couple of very silly, fun poems I have always remembered. This one in my grade 6 poetry book, I had to look up online to find out who it was by. It's by a man named Christopher Isherwood. The common cormorant or shag lays eggs inside a paper bag. The reason you will see, no doubt, it is to keep the lightning out. But what these unobservant birds have never noticed is that herds of wandering bears may come with buns and steal the bags to hold the crumbs. One's been in my head since I think I was about 8. And here's another lovely one, also great fun. Ella Telephony. This one by Laura Elizabeth Richards. And you have to remember, telephones always used to be tethered to the wall with a lovely long curly line. That's what this poem is about. Once there was an elephant who tried to use the telephant. No, I mean an elephone who tried to use the telephone. Dear me, I'm not certain quite that even now I've got it right. However it was, he got his trunk entangled in the telefunk. The more he tried to get it free, the louder buzzed the telefee. I fear I'd better drop the song of Elifop and Telefong. So along with silly poems that stick in your head forever, sometimes very old poems stick. This one, it's at least 1,200 years old. It might be 2,000 years old. This is a Viking riddle translated into modern English. What is a box without hinges, key or lid, yet golden treasure inside is hid? Here it is again. What is a box without hinges, key or lid, yet golden treasure inside is hid? And this next poem of mine, which is called Pit Stop, is actually part of the answer. But it's a listening poem, so you've got to be very much all ears for this one. Pit Stop. Cranker, zip, zizzle, snapple, spit, fats, hot, and ouch, arm, stipple, stings, crick, crack, shell, slide, O mighty yoke, saucer's mucilaginous cup, a liquid sun, crinkle edges filigree, slide hole, oh joy to plate, butter sizzle, drizzle over top. It's the same thing for both of them. That's the egg poem. That is frying an egg in a frying pan and what it sounds like. And the box without hinges, key or lid, where golden treasure inside is hid. It's an egg. Again, a poem from the days when a house had one phone attached by a cord to the wall, and where if you were in a different time zone, not only did you not call because it was incredibly expensive, you didn't call because you'd be waking up way more than the person you wanted to talk to. Phoned. My love, I phoned to find you, phoned to tell you, phoned I love you, phoned your letter, phoned, it buoyed me so I nearly phoned. 1:30 your time, you would be sleeping when I phoned. I was so lonely all night waiting to phone to find you, but not so lonely. I phoned, as this morning when I phoned to find you not at home. Cell phones somehow don't have that romance. It's a different thing. Cell phones have different lovely moments, but it's a very specific ring. We all had the same ring in those days. Everybody knew there's a phone and it's important. So more silly poems. We live in a country where everything freezes solid for months. This is a poem conceived with Ethan in Killaloe one day as we were part of a poetry cafe. It's called Beavers at Home. 2 parts. 1. How big are the TVs in their lodges? Do their mothers say square eyes and time for bed? How do beaver dads complain when the kits want treehouse and it's wrestling on the tube? Do they pop the beer tabs with their teeth? My guess is no, because I've never seen uneven grooves on the pencil tip of a tree. 2. In their lodges, time must slow and spin as long as the moon turning round the earth, as soft as stars sighing round the sun, as sharp as ice crackling at the margins of the pond. They must curl and sigh, complaining at first as they slide out below their glassy ice ceiling for salad from their sunken leaves. How often do the kits turn up their noses? It tastes like pond, they moan, You can't make us eat it, as they sulked back to sleep for another week. So from that one, you know that one of the things I do in my life as a poet is to go places and write poems with people. Sometimes I work with them and they write poems, and we do that when we're doing our Radical Connections meetings online, where two of us work together and maybe we write poems and maybe we trade poems like a poetry cafe. This is a suite of poems from Sioux Lookout. I got there because I was touring with a theatre company and we wanted to go to the end of the road in Ontario, which we did. It was exciting. And then I went back every year for 5 or 6 years because I met wonderful people and they invited me to come and make poems with many of them. This is a poem about getting to Sioux Lookout in the middle of winter when there is snow everywhere. And you also need to know that it wasn't the first rented car I got out of Thunder Bay. I'd had to take that back because there's no airline to deal with a sloppy, slow puncture. And so I had the second rented car, which didn't have that problem, but had some others. So this is called Cruising. So I took the Eagle for a sign on the long curves past Ignis, cruising fast and fleet, levered high by an unfamiliar seat, singing harmony to a Winnipeg beat. I was full of the joys of the road, of 72 and its curves to come, of Donna and Chris and a sense of home. I was flying, pleased to the core to be driving north once more. So of course the cop clocked me as I soared over a hill. He was from Dryden, dour and plain and good. No sense telling him about the Eagle, or the lure of a laugh, and how damn ready I was for dinner. No sense at all. The cop was from Dryden, or I might feel poetic still. And my apologies to the extremely nice cop who was only doing his job. I had been following a truck which had turned off somewhere, and it turned out big distances and a broken speedometer. I was going much faster than I knew. So in Sioux Lookout, there are a wonderful group of people who now are probably finished high school, but when they were young teenagers, we did several poetry cafe sessions. And this is a poem for Cecily and for Katrina, who felt this way, and certainly I had always felt this way too, so we shared a lot of ideas. My poem is called Tomboys. Tomboys play soccer and are careful to kick low. Tomboys run along down and cheer loud when the score rises. Tomboys sweat and sweat some more. They keep a bandana to mop their brow. When it's wet enough, it keeps the worms in their pockets cool. Tomboys play in mud and ride their bicycles with ice cream bars at the ready. Tomboys are fine and strong and steady. They'll knock your socks off the once a year they wear a dress. Tomboys play straight, aiming for the bullseye of the women they become. And this one is for Lizzie and for Caitlin, who were tomboys with a great delight in ice skates. It's called Hockey Bag. My hockey bag's so big, it can hold 2 hockey sticks, my shin pads from soccer, and the socks I wore the day we won the cup. They will never be washed. My hockey bag is so big that when the zipper sticks, I can still drag out the cat to save my sandwich from last week that I'd forgotten all about. Tuna, pickle, and French honey mustard. I'm real quick because the cat could choke. My hockey bag's so big that when it opens, it exhales the whole arena. All those trays of French fries, all those feet on the bleachers, every echo of every skate blade, every groan and swear and cheer. My hockey bag's so big, it breathes out every game I've ever played. And this is a poem that also belongs with me and the tomboys, combining ideas of things that we love to do with our grandmothers. It's called Mouse Running Tea. Bannock on the table with butter and jam, and a little bit of peanut butter. My grandma pours the kettle so the tea smells like wood smoke. It's too hot, so I blow it cold. She says, T needs to be strong enough for a mouse to run across it. I laugh with joy. And a group of the boys, Brendan and Ben and Braden and Tyrell and Jesse, told me about what had been most important in their lives recently. This would have been one of the first years I was in Sioux Lookout. And they said this poem should be called Accomplishment. And I made sure that they approved all of it because it was their story, not mine, although they invited me to be the teller. Accomplishment. Bacon, eggs, and hash browns, warm, dry boots, orange jacket, camo vest, Took's orange too. I had this awesome hat, so sick if the warden came, flip it to orange. 60% or 160 square centimeters. How much orange is it supposed to be? Sun, just starting up. The sky is on fire, frost on the ground. I can see my breath. Fire up the quad, let her warm up. Smell of exhaust on my jacket as I go to get my gun. Lever action, 30-06. Ripping down the trail, bumps and bumps. The cold air goes right through me. I'm so pumped I feel like I can rip a tree right out of the ground. So pumped I could go right back and do it again. There. A deer. Take the shot. Dead eye 10-pointer buck. Knife through skin. I'm pushing the tip of the blade till it bites through. I cut the stomach, unzip the glistening sac so the whole gut peels out, blood warm on my hands. My best moment? The deer's heart. A slice from the pan hot off my knife. And when you're a young man and you know you can kill a deer, that truly is accomplishment. You can feed your family. Now, I've never been deer hunting, but in my pursuit of the exotic in Canada, I have been bear hunting near Grande Prairie. This particular poem is called Straight Shooting for David. You talked of bears and taught me how to aim a gun. Shoulders hunched, you hugged me safe from winds only you felt. And later you told me the story of the one you caught. Wearing the corpse wet and heavy across your shoulders, striking back down the bush cut for the truck, you staggered and fell, the bear yourself. Glad later no one braked and fired. You tell me you're bleeding. Well, you should know. Love, like rifles, is a dangerous sport. The geese don't fly over Calgary. All winter long you told me to watch for the geese you were sending. I dreamt them over you in the warm eastern night, dark heartbeats of wings, pulsing raucous promise through that velvet air, where you sat on the back steps with Jamie, pipes lit and guitars, a parrot in the next yard, and my strawberries in bloom. Mayday, south of Grande Prairie, we halted the truck, a two-tone Silverado 4x4, without the necessary tires and chains for real tough stuff. Bear hunting, but the snow still slowed the willow shoots. There we were, thigh-deep in the stuff. Granular, cold, close-up, white, still winter soaked our pant legs. We were circling our campsite, guns in hand, when the honking started. It was only a pair. But that honking, that throbbing, liquid howl of honking tore silence wide open. They arced across the trees down to open water, to land noisy on the river, splashing ice shelf shoals. You sent me a pair, only a pair. But their honking beat out the desolation of one, his spring still winter, stalling stillborn in his veins. And last in this section of slightly quizzical poems, funny poems, this poem is called Ironies. There is nothing to compare to lying in bed with your pulse racing as the man you love negotiates the terms of his life next door in the arms of a houri. Unless it is ironing downstairs, crooning country to the stereo, while in your very own bed, your husband screws the chick of his choice. Funny poems. Funny poems that can take very painful moments and make them funny. I came from a time where we were taking literally some of the poets we were handed to read. Robert Herrick, To the Virgins, To Make Much of Time. Gather ye rosebuds while ye may, old time is still a-flying, and this same flower that smiles today, tomorrow will be dying. The glorious lamp of heaven, the sun, the higher he's a-getting, the sooner will his race be run, and nearer he's to setting. That age is best, which is the first, when youth and blood are warmer, but being spent, the worse, and worse times still succeed the former. Then be not coy, but use your time, and while you may, go marry, for having lost but once your prime, you may forever tarry. And also his little fragment upon Julia's clothes. When as in silks my Julia goes, then methinks how sweetly flows that liquefaction of her clothes. Next, when I cast mine eyes and see that brave vibration every way free, oh, how that glittering taketh me. Somehow, our poetry books were full of poems which certainly encouraged a happy carnal enjoyment of life. If poetry mattered, you took it rather as gospel, which leads to this poem, Malice Aforethought. You thought I plucked it knowing? Well, yes, the Father said no, but should not his creature be believed? Eyes so wise, bright skin a marvel of auburn and bronze. Such sweet, strong sap I've never tasted, as when he bade me pluck the fruit and bite. Were teeth not meant to burst that golden skin, how should such firm white flesh spill honey to my tongue? What other love but his hung harvest in my reach, hung pale moon's gleam in the russet clatter of leaves? By his own creature, in his own garden, of his own tree, I am shamed? These wages of love you thought I knew? One more poem of that kind, and then I'm going to finish us with just a couple of ones that suggest summer might be coming. We have snow happening outside the windows right here this minute. This poem is called Etiquette. A married woman needs an armor. The modest outfit diverts the eye. Suited women with leather handbags stand apart from husbands' antics, maintain indulgence, calmly parley with the civil world. A married woman needs a lover, clear-eyed and tender as the morning sky. Well-loved women cord steady heart rates through urban oxides, casual fondling the husband's portion at the parkade after lunch. A married woman needs a tower, upper windows open to the hill towns of her soul. Certain women hide keys in their hands, unknown to husbands shouldering duty, kissing breakfast, thinking they are not alone. There's a whole other reading there of all sorts of poems of a time in life when who knew which man was going to be the right one and who knew which way it would go. So there are many poems about that particular tumultuous time of life. I think many of us wrote those miseries out that way. But here's now 3 summer poems as our envoi. I'm lucky. I get to go to the same lake now every year for a good 15 years. So I get to see that piece of the seasons again and again. Loons. The loons are calling out, starshine. One lone mournful howl from down Black Bay, then the sleepy pair by Moosehead, soothing, laughing, chatting. Yes, yes, the dipper is wheeled to the east. Yes, the water is warm and calm. Yes, we are here. Again the lonely heart. And the soothing call, repeat, repeat, repeat. Her mate died last week. She calls lone and wild. And the nesting couple coo to her, coo and soothe and preen each hour under ticking starlight. I am the woman with the lake in her hair. I am the woman with the night of stars reflected in her eyes. I am the woman in the pool of light. I am the woman with moss underfoot and rain on the water to swim in. I am the woman steeped in joy and laid across our rocks to dry in the sun. And for this one, you probably really need to shut your eyes and slightly open your mouth. Raspberry for Christine. To crush one ripe raspberry, tart against my tongue, to taste that explosion of summer, red and juicy and round. There it is, every wave, every sun sparkle, every loon call and firefly, hunkered down beneath the stars, all the sun-kissed skin. There is summer just picked, bursting into fireworks, tart against your tongue.
Thank you so much, Eleanor. There should be applause, right? You know, I could taste that raspberry. I could smell the arena, could hear the bee loud glade. I hope you enjoyed these last 40 minutes as much as I did. And do know that this is available for you to re-listen to and to share and encourage other people to sign in for the next month. We will be having live streamed performance available every month this coming year. And the artists, Eleanor included, who are already doing one-on-one connections are also available ongoing for one-on-one connections with anybody who has a hard time accessing the arts. So do sign in, check out Radical Connections. As always, we would welcome your donations as well. And I look forward to the next performance with you. Thank you so much for watching.